in Kitchener. She's going to have a talk today calling Humble Pie, which I can't wait to hear, Mel. I'm going to show the slides for Mel. So Mel, just tell me when you want to move forward. I'll go on mute though, just so you have all of the stuff you need to be able to say that kind of thing. So quick introduction for Mel. Most of us know that you are a friend of Unity's and we're delighted to see you all the time, but a little bit of background is she is a wild and creative lifelong learner. Mel is an interfaith spiritual director, ordained minister in the spiritualist tradition, and works in restorative justice with a focus on how we can do things differently towards love, toward peace, and towards healing. Ultimately, Mel's work centers around the bigger spaces for belonging and self-acceptance as the bridge. So welcome, Mel. We're thrilled to have you here.
Great, thanks. So let's begin. I want to invite you into an idea of humility. Next slide, thanks. And I want to offer you first just this understanding of a connection with truth. And it's that truth requires no defense. That means that what it is that is coming up for you doesn't require anything further. That's the difference between a truth and a lie. Truth does not require a defense, lies generally do. The challenges, the greatest conflict we'll have is the one within ourselves to acknowledge and be with what is actually there. So I invite you to hold that consciousness or possibility as I share today. I usually share at the beginning a couple of other pieces. There's nothing I'm going to share today with you that you don't already know. You have wisdom in you, and it'll tap into that. I invite you to look for your areas for which you meet resistance to it. That is equally growth promoting as those areas for which you go, hey, that feels true to me. Spiritual practice is to hear the most straightforward ideas and then put them into embodied practices. This is the complex and nuanced work. The ideas I'm offering are simple. The practices are complex. Oftentimes we seek to create complexity in the idea and simplicity in the practice. It is more true, the opposite. That is, something as simple as love has a multitude of infinite applications from moment to moment. The practice is challenging, and this is healthy, though nearly impossible without your presence. The challenge, the reality of our world is that there are many things designed to distract us. So the practice is nearly impossible without your presence. It is nearly impossible to be true and with your truth if you are not in your body. And we will get distracted. The spiritually examined life calls us back to who we really are. Calls us to examine, to explore, and to be with more of what is there. Next slide. One of my teachers challenged me to be able to have my own terms of reference for the words that I use. That teacher said, hey, that's actually a responsibility of yours to do. It is responsible of you to know what you mean when you speak a word and to be able to articulate the meaning of it in 6 words or less. Had some tough teachers in my life, and they've grown me and challenged me to get clear, calmer, and connected about who I am and what I know my truth to be. So the question of what humility is to you is work I cannot absolve you from. It is responsible. It is important for you to know what you mean by humility. What I will offer is this, our Western dictionary definition. Humility is defined as humility, a modest or low view of one's own importance. I would like to start with how ideas shape our world. That is our Western dictionary view. To make oneself of own self of little importance. And the result of that then is, of course, we say to somebody else, just be littler. Just don't do that. Shh, quiet. And we also do that to ourselves. And that means then that it's more likely that I'm going to walk into a room and not think I impact that room. But the truth of the matter is you do. You are impacting the space simply by your presence and the quality of it. That's how much power we have. It also sounds like humility described in the Western definition is an action. In Buddhism, humility is just defined as a virtue. I would suggest then a natural byproduct of love, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. This isn't my definition. This is the Buddhist definition. Humility is defined as a virtue. It comes out when we live a practice fearlessly committed and embodied of what it means to be with love, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, a balance of inside and outside. And that the key part of Buddhism, which is why it connects so deeply for me and it aligns with unity beautifully, is that we begin with ourselves. We begin within. That means that we are applying love, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity inward. The truth is that part of us will always know when we are operating outside of our highest good. That is the natural consequence. So we think, hey, I got away with it. Nah, no, you didn't. You know. A part of you will always know, and that part then will not be in alignment, and you will feel it. Peace, I am learning, has less to do with what is going on around me and more to do with whether or not I can look at myself and say I showed up in that moment or on this day in the way that I wanted to. And when I fall short, which I inevitably will do, turns out a multitude of times per day, the quicker I can own, account, and be responsible for that and say, hey, I just talked in a way there that was way less than the loving, caring person I choose to be. And so I'm just going to name that, and I want to come back into it. It means that we actually lean into discomfort and we lean into our practice, whatever that practice looks like, whatever it is we have to be, and we do that with commitment. Indicators that we are operating outside of our alignment or authenticity, and I would say for me, I articulate that as thoughts, words, actions, in alignment. My heart, my mind, my body are all flowing in the same direction, and those are my values. And I have determined them, and I commit to them. It is a full participatory place. Indicators that I am not in alignment in those ways include defensiveness. And defensiveness, I like, there's this model called the shame compass, and defensiveness really can look like avoiding, withdrawing, attacking another, attacking self. So we notice that. I'm no longer present, I'm away attacking myself for the silly thing that I said, for the way that I wasn't what I should have been or what I thought I should do. You can feel ideally I'm using enough judgment words to cultivate that. And what I'm suggesting is if we were to apply compassion, love, sympathetic joy, even passion to that piece and bring it back in, it would change. A lack of peace will also be experienced. Increased anxiety. I said yesterday to my youngest child, I can hear in this moment that it's possible that your anxiety is the relationship between what you are most afraid of and what you know that you are not doing. I said, my gosh, I'm going to write that down. The anxiety I'm feeling is between what I am most afraid of having happened, and what I know I am not doing, which will fast track me to that place I most fear. And an obsessive need for other people to understand. And that has been one that being able to have that articulate and named has changed my life. It is often that we are frustrated, we ourselves are not understanding what is going on for us, and therefore we project out and we say, everything out here needs to be different, so that I am understood. No. It is powerful as heck. Truth needs no defense. When I come into a knowing a deeper knowing, and it's a bigger container and it aligns with my virtues and my values, and I am showing up in it. It turns out it doesn't matter what I'm facing. I can do it from that place. And I promise there's a sense of peace there that is astonishing to me. Next slide. I'm suggesting this, acknowledging more of what's going on within you, particularly when those parts seem polarized. And I'm just talking about the reality that you are an inner universe. You have universes. Forgive me, I used it singular for a multitude of yous. You have universes of you, and you have pieces that seemingly seem pretty polarized. Your capacity to be present in the world and with others leans on your own capacity to meet those seemingly polarized parts of yourself. And then do what? Hold them with care and compassion. Again, simple idea, hard, challenging practice. According to Dr. Schwartz from the book No Bad Parts, all parts of ourselves are sacred and deserve to be treated as such. Our parts can sometimes be disruptive or harmful, but once they're unburdened, they return to their natural goodness. When we learn to love our parts, we can learn to love all people, and that will contribute to healing the world. All of us are born with subconscious minds of parts, and the key to health and happiness is to honor, understand, and love every part. Sounds great. Why do we resist that? I'll offer you this. It's from my teacher, Tara Brack, and it leans into a resistance to a word that I hear most frequently when people engage me for spiritual direction. They say, I wanna get to know myself more. I wanna understand these pieces of myself, but I don't want to be. Anyone want to guess the word? Vulnerable? Vulnerable. I don't want to be vulnerable. So let's put this in practice and let's talk about, because for probably about 2.5 years of my own journey into the depths of who I am, I came to a place of really understanding that encouraging other people towards a fearless spiritual journey is a very hard sell. It's going to hurt like heck. It's going to be really, really hard. It is challenging. The ideas are going to be so simple, but the application is so complex and nuanced and variable. And as I continued fearlessly into that journey, I came to this place of having now this articulation. Say there's a part of me that compulsively lies. And the suggestion is I meet that piece of me with compassion. And I choose to look at it instead, but again, the practice is with compassion, with care, with concern. Hey, aspect of me, what is going on that you are not willing to share anything truth? What is going on? What is happening for you? Come close. It means that I will go underneath the surface of that, and that will drop into vulnerability. Because maybe the truth is, I'm afraid nobody will like me if I am who I am. The reality is I sold out a long time ago. I don't know who I am. I've just been what everyone else wants. I'm scared. I feel alone. I don't know how to do it. I don't know if I'll ever know how to do it. That vulnerability and our ability to be with that compassion, similar to humility, which cultivates naturally from this practice, the byproduct is transformation. Simply in acknowledging what is truly there, it will transform. All on its own, it is fantastic, but not first without being seen and acknowledged. By who? By you, for you to see you, for you to know that that is there, for you to witness that with a care and compassion, a curiosity. All of us are born with sub-minds or parts. The key to health and happiness is to honor, understand, and love every part. Where do you begin? I'm suggesting within. With who? With yourself. Just a little more, just a tiny little bit more curiosity applied to those hard things, to those pieces of you that, we wish weren't there maybe. And instead to look at them, to see them, to hold them, and to find out what they're really saying. Next slide. I love this little meme. Be with someone that makes you happy. Be someone that makes you happy. That is the practice that will have you in intimate, engaging, and fulfilling relationships, whether they are erotic, platonic, business, personal. That is where the juice is. The truth of the matter is, you don't have to be friends with every single person. That's ridiculous. Think about how many of us there are on this earth. That's not where the juice is. The juice is where you are who you really are. Walking on the path you were going to walk anyways, because you know who you are and you know what you want and you're going after it. And you meet those other people that are on your way, for as long or as fleeting as that may be. But it is sustainable. I have learned that our values in practice are what is sustainable. I do not tire there the way that I used to, trying to be what it was I thought people wanted of me. Which, by the way, for those of us who struggle with being too empathetic, too deeply caring about other people, too emotional, that could be that. I would name this for those of us who might move into let me be what you need. I can feel what you need. It is understanding that that is its own form of emotional unavailability, because you are robbing people of the chance to get to know who you are, what you think, what you feel, what you know, what you care about. And you're robbing yourself of that chance because we become empty and shadows as a result. Remember, I said nearly impossible if we are not present. Be someone that makes you happy. Oftentimes we do duality thinking. We've been taught to do this. We're very, very skilled at it. So it's values versus practices. And I've spoken before about how we can self-assess and kick our own rear ends into gear. But it was a moment where I looked at what I said I valued, which was being a parent. And I looked at my practice, and it was a raging workaholic that often took me away from my kids. Those moments are not fun moments. Those moments are incredibly uncomfortable. But you put yourself directly at the intersection of your own choicefulness. And you ask yourself again, what is it I want to value and how is it I want to live? And you step different the next time. But you can't do that if you go into the shame spiral. I'm going to defend. I'm going to make all these excuses why I'm doing this. I'm going to attack myself. Look at me being the shitty parent. I'm going to avoid it. I'm going to withdraw from it. Or you meet it. You meet the distance between what you say you value and what you practice. Because the truth of the matter is you can practice anything you want to. You can practice complaining all day long. If that's what you want to practice, I'm just saying, know you're practicing it. Just know you're practicing it. Do it. But know you're practicing it. And then ask yourself, is this what I want to still be doing? And if it is, continue doing it, but know you're doing it. That's all. That's the practice. Then from there, we deepen practices of self-accountability. And that I would articulate today as being responsive and responsible for what we say and do or don't do. I want to say that again, because again, simple in idea, hard and challenging as it's meant to be in practice. Being responsive and responsible for what we say and do or don't do. When we deepen and mature into that space, we'll find that values and practices dance. and it's called embodiment. And it is where we connect our thinking, our speaking, and our actions together, and we align. And if we're lucky, we can have spaces like this where other people say, wait, I want to study who I am, and I want to have a spiritual understanding. And if you're really lucky, you'll run into people. What? Yes. And they'll call you back, and they'll call on you. Is this who you really want to be? Is this who you are? If you're lucky, you'll get to have those disagreements, those conflicts, those generative conflicts that deepen you into your own values and practices and embodiments. Why? Because you're going there anyway. And if you're not, you'll find it really frustrating. And then we'll move back to avoid, withdraw, attack myself, attack others. We know the system. It's very, very embedded in us. Next slide. I love that there was a Zen Buddhist quote at the beginning of the service, and I offer you this. It is Zen Buddhist concept that you may know as the beginner's mindset. The practice is quite simple. When we speak of humility, humility is making room in your own mind, heart, and worldview for new information. That is a hallmark of it. A beginner's mindset is to call toward humility, toward awareness that everything that is functioning and valuable and meaningful to us, and everything that appears to be muddy and hard is in all of us. And we're standing at intersections of choicefulness. And if we understood that and we understood who we were, we would change. So we call toward humility, toward openness, toward curiosity instead of pretension or apathy. Without a beginner's mindset, you might approach new subjects with skepticism or familiar ones with autopilot. And the autopilot I describe as simple as there are times when I've driven home from work, and if you said to me, how did I get there? I have no idea. Much of what we do is on autopilot. It is why new thinking, new ways of being are so important. We know that. We know neural pathways happen when we, maybe write or do something creative with our less dominant hand. We know this information. So I offer you 3 pieces here. 1, know yourself. Am I aware of my own wants, needs, and desires? Because that is a responsibility that you have. And can I communicate them? And am I willing to set boundaries? Many times we have this pie in the sky kind of idea of what the world would be, because it would be always ever so peaceful that nobody would be, what? Bumping into each other anymore? Oh, well, that's tough to do then if I'm being who I truly am. The idea that we push down all the systems of oppression and we somehow come to the other side and we don't need to know and articulate who we are, what we desire, what we want, and what we don't want, and make room for others. There is not a world that exists where our work does not come with us. There's not a world that exists where you move forward without carrying yourself with you, and that's all of you. Know your limits and capacities before having a challenging conversation with yourself or another. And I mean this, with yourself or another. Ask yourself this one question and be honest about how you respond. Do I want to see this person grow? And before you step into a conversation with another, ask yourself, it is your responsibility. Because if your truth in that moment is no, I want to see this person sick. No, I want to see this person pay. No, I want to see that person pay. You are not the right person for that conversation. You are not in your values. So call yourself back in. That's your responsibility. Know your values and commit to showing up and practicing them, independent of if anyone else is holding yourself accountable if you notice that you're not doing that. Again, this idea of I will function to the lowest functioning of other people as my excuse will keep the world operating very, very low. The idea that I will show up in integrity with me because I will walk with the peace that I get from doing so and the gift of understanding and connection to these pieces of myself, that is the possibility. Next slide. So carrying humility into Advent, I'd offer this as the possibility. It is a beautiful practice. It's a meaningful practice, and it has as much value and relevance today as it has had in the multitude of ways that it's been practiced. And that is to open to intentionally living values, studying values, embodying values. Our truth requires no defense. Can we be honest with ourselves at least? Humility is a byproduct of living a valued, embodied life. Practicing being accountable for your choices, including your words and actions, and doing so from a place of compassion and care, to care for those pieces of yourself that are there. They're there anyway. Maybe give them something to allow yourself to go into what is really going on and trusting transformation will happen. Know thyself. Leave no part of you behind. You, just as much as anyone, desire your love, care, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, and you're deserving of it. Be able to say to yourself and mean it, I have a strong practice of being open to new information, ways of being and doing. And lastly, though I want to dive deeper into this idea through meditation, there is no other. Remember to remember. Here's the thing about Advent. If you decide to embark on this journey, it's similar to when we choose what 12 candles we want to focus on, what we want to let go of, what we want to bring in. These practices have power, and they're linked directly to principles. And if you're lucky enough to have people in your life that hold care and accountability for your journey in that way, for that examination in that way, offer gratitude. Because here's the deal. Hope, love, joy, peace will be mirrored to you in ways that you will want to receive and in ways that are challenging to receive. That is the point. Be with the discomfort. Choose growth. At the intersections of moments in your life and experiences, I will suggest we grow from the ones that are most challenging. Allow and do so with presence and with your values present. Peace, hope, love, joy, all reside there in that moment where we acknowledge life is difficult and we choose how we want to meet it. Next slide. So I want to invite you into time of meditation, dipping into your body, feeling into your body. The truth is there is no other. In that way, you are the one that you've been waiting for. And you, like everyone else, is a mix of everything. The key is to remember. Spoken in nearly every Indigenous space I step into, including most recently at a speaking engagement with Robin Walls-Kimmerer. Remember to remember is whispered to us over and over. There is no other. In the English language, we often it beings. Breathing beings, whether it's plants, animals, people. We it them. Yet Robin Walls-Kimmerer suggests that we he them, K-I. this word meaning living earth. In that way, we wouldn't look at a pack of geese, she says, and point at them and say, look at it. We would point and say, look at key. And then she says, wait, we would need a pronoun for a group of geese. Oh, I know that one's easy. We already have it. Kin. And we would point to those pack of geese, this flock of geese flying. And we would say, look, there's my kin flying south. I will miss you. And we begin to meet those parts of ourselves in the same way. Those hurting pieces of ourselves. Hello, friends. Who are you? What do you need? I imagine it this way. When we think about the wisdom of water, it would be water's own journey to see that it is both a muddy, stagnant puddle, trickling stream, a raging waterfall, a destructive hurricane, and literally the source of life, all at the same time. And it would hold its ability to be with that, be with those seeming polarities, be with those seeming impossibilities, inviting you into a moment to touch into your own universe. So imagine for a minute what offering greater care to more of who you are would look like. Finish with a quote from Robin Wall Kimmerer. If you didn't know better, you might not recognize raindrops and rivers as kin. So different are the particular and the collective.